Hello everyone, in today's video we're going to show you how to fly backwards. Now this is one of those things that one of my students was actually bringing up, saying, well, if you kind of set it up this way and you do it that way, you should be able to do it. And of course I've tested this, and I've actually flown in the real world in conditions where the aircraft does indeed go backwards. But it's worth noting a couple quick things here. First of all, in order for a plane to fly, we need enough lift. We're going to get lift by airflow over the wing, especially a nice smooth laminar airflow going over that wing. So there's a couple different ways we can get that airflow. The first simplest method, of course, is to go forward and pick up some speed and make our own, essentially come to the air. The other solution, of course, is to have something that is wind, which what we're going to use in order to fly backwards. So I'm going to go up to weather real quickly here. I'll run one-way 2-1 here. I'm going to click right here. It looks pretty good. And what I'm going to do is set the wind to 210, which is going to be our altitude. And I'm going to set the speed up here pretty substantial. We're going to go up to about, we'll call it about 60 knots there, which is a little excessive. And you can actually take a look here that our wingsock is not very appreciative of the fact that we're hitting quite that hard there. One thing I just want to confirm, though, is that windsock does not seem to be facing the correct direction for the wind I've asked for. So let's go double check real quickly. Aha, because it didn't do it correctly. I'm pretty confident I typed in 210. You all saw me type in 210 there. There we go. Let me go ahead and give it just a couple more taps, and we're perfect. So we now have wind coming directly at us, and we also have these exciting things called gust, which we're going to settle down just a little bit here. We'll go ahead and make sure they're also coming out of the same direction again in order to make things a little bit fair for us. There we go. So it's about even. Rotate, and now we're back in business. Now, because the wind is so darn strong here, you'll observe the fact that if I pull back on my controls, my aircraft is now airborne. Now, if I give myself a little bit of speed here, you'll observe the fact that my aircraft is not only airborne, but it's more or less holding steady. Now, people always ask me, what's the secret to learning a successful landing or hovering on a helicopter? Well, the trick here is just to find yourself enough wind that hits you in the front that you don't actually hover. All you do is you basically just sort of sit here. Now that our aircraft is basically turned into a helicopter here, yes, this does work. Believe it or not, we can do this. As a matter of fact, if I pull the throttle back and lift up a little bit, you'll observe the fact that we're going to start going backwards. So I'm going to go ahead and pop the flaps down a couple clicks here. Popping those flaps down, of course, is going to give us the nice ability to basically enjoy our little return backwards. Now, as you do this, of course, we run the risk of hitting the ground pretty hard there. Now, the reason that it did that, of course, is it doesn't necessarily make you immune to stalls. Now, I knew that it was going to happen, so what I did is I intentionally set this up so that we had ourselves some lovely damage turned off for the purposes of this demonstration. Now, as you can see, I am going backwards, hitting the gas as hard as I can. And one of the things that Flight Sim does, kind of weirdly, of course, is that weather vaning effect, which is trying to snap us in the other direction, even though that's the direction we're traveling in. Now, to fly backwards, of course, it's actually a little tricky for us because we need a little bit of forward motion, but we can't ever hit ourselves in a stall, because obviously if we stall the airplane, we're going to have some really bad times. So I'm going to go ahead and reduce my power smoothly here. We're doing about 80 miles an hour, and we are still completely airborne. I'm going to go ahead and hold it just like that. And we're just going to gently, again, you don't want to be pulling up because that will get you actual lift here. So now our speed is, ground speed, I should say, is effectively pretty darn slow. So I'm going to gently pull back. I'm going to give myself one click of flaps here. And all we're going to do is we're just going to slowly let the aircraft creep towards my landing speed there. So we're a little heavy today, so it's going to make it a little more difficult. Making things worse for us, of course, is the fact that as I'm being pushed backwards here, there it is, right there. There's my hover. As I'm being pushed backwards, of course, the aircraft is going to have a tendency to get a little funky. So we're, again, just kind of sitting here enjoying. Now, people always go, well, this is pretty fun. How do I go to the right? Well, it's actually pretty easy. We treat it just like a helicopter. We give ourselves just a little bit of power. And we're just going to go let the nose drift a little bit to the right there, just like that. Now, when we're ready to kind of zero back out, we're just going to tip it the other way and, again, pretend that we're flying a Harrier here as we enjoy this. Now, some people, of course, say, how are you going to land this thing now? And that's actually where things get tricky. As you probably noticed by my couple of visits down to the ground there, it's very, very easy to get that wrong speed and have this thing basically cut out on you. And that's one of the hard parts about experiences like this. Of course, keep them in the real world. The gusts here would be ferocious, not to mention all the projectiles and things that would be coming off the ground here. So what I'm going to do to land it is I'm simply going to line myself up the best I can with the ground. Again, I'll try to keep it a nice constant speed. You can see I've got that almost zero hover going on right now, which is very amusing. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to pretend we're landing the plane conventionally. Now, the danger here is if we just let off on the power on here, just let it kind of drift down, what's going to happen to us is we're basically going to get that ground effect, and it's going to bounce us. And then as the weather vane kicks in, it's going to snap our nose around, which is not something we want to desirable here. So I'm just going to be basically treating this as if it's a common approach. Now, one thing I do want to do, of course, as we settle, is I want to go ahead and be very careful, whoa, not to pull back, because you're going to end up getting yourself airborne again. And you can see every time it does that, the plane itself is just going to get snapped just like that. So what we have to do is, as we hit the power here, and we'll go ahead and settle it back in again, is we're going to have to actually keep the power in until the plane actually settles. So I'll go ahead and I'll let this thing come back down again. Again, we'll pop those flaps in to make our life a little bit simpler. Flaps are going to make your nose go up, by the way, so keep that in mind. So we're going to give it just a little bit of power. Ooh, easy, easy, easy. Remember, you're still flying. And because this is a tail dragger, we're going to push the nose forward a little bit. And I'm just holding the nose. You can actually see my plane right now. I'm actually just sort of hovering it like this. And I'm not even on the brakes. Go ahead now, pull that nose gently. Again, as soon as you start getting too fast here, the plane is going to snap right back into the sky. See that? And that is because of that effect. Now, if we pull back, remember, our plane is flying. I'm completely let go of the controls here. The only thing holding me here is the brakes. And we can't pull up, because if we pull up, the plane is going to get lift again, and we're going to snap back up. If we actually want to slow this experience down, this is what we've got. We're basically stuck in an equilibrium here. Some people, of course, will sit here and go, well, can you adjust the trim upwards or something like that? Well, we probably could adjust the trim, but the downside with the trim is, again, you're going to run into that problem that you're going to start floating. Now, one of the things that makes this super duper fun, and there it is. Do you see how just a little bit of nose down popped us right back up in the air? And we'll go ahead and hit those brakes again. We're going to hold forward here to kind of eliminate that bounce. Oh, whoa. Of course, we need a little bit more. It's an interesting problem for a plane to have. Whee! Actually got to bring the power in to get us back down to the ground. My flight instructor right now is just going, whoa, he's flying his airliner right now going, wonder what he's up to these days. I hope he's being constructive and, helping, future generations of pilots experiments the everything. Here's our Cessna landing gear, by the way. If you have issues with this, of course, we can just go ahead and let go of the brakes. Go just a little bit of power. Again, you need a little bit. You basically need to fly with the ground in order to get this. And yes, I could have done this not in the tail dragger. This would have been much, much simpler like that. So now that we're down here on the ground and we're just sort of hanging out and enjoying a little wind here, one of the things we cannot do is kick in the rudder. Now, if you kick the rudder, the plane is going to twist this way. Now that we're cutting out of the wind and it's starting to come across us, we can put the tail down. Ta-da! And you can see just like that, we're now nice and stable. If you push that rudder any further, by the way, the whole weather vane is going to snap us around very, very hard, which is going to make it very, very dangerous. Now, one of the fun things we can do here is, let me go ahead and kick the rudder over again. Again, I'm not even touching my ailerons here. There we go. We'll line ourselves back up with the wind here. And now what we can do is, if we want to take off in a hurry, and this is pretty amusing, is we can put the flaps down and just pull back. Just like that, we're airborne again because of the fact that, again, we've just increased the amount of lift. Now notice how it just lulls as this goes. Now the last thing we'll do here in our little video, and again, this is just a fun video more than anything, is because we have a 60-knot wind, that's a headwind right now. By the way, look at this. Look at this. We're moving. We're moving. Is what happens when you convert that into a tailwind, which is going to be very amusing for us because this aircraft doesn't normally travel at these speeds. Look at the trees go. Oh my gosh. This would definitely scare me here. Of course, if I came in at a headwind or crosswind like this, I'd probably want to quit flying. Whee! Let's go ahead and tip us around here. Whoa, whoa. Ground effect. Whoa, there's the weather vane effect. Oh, let's turn the nose. Pull back. Pull back. Pull back. Look at my airspeed dropping. I'm not using time acceleration. Gotta go. Now, if you're wondering why the plane is absolutely freaking out right now, it's because of that weather vane effect again. And now we have a tailwind. Now, what makes this fun is if you look very carefully, you'll observe that we are indeed not traveling in a straight line here. We're actually just getting bounced around pretty hard. But our ground speed right now, it's not 120. I have a feeling it's a little bit quicker than that. Yeah, about 190. So while we're moving, enjoy.